Has some handball, still a chance, is it a goal? It is! He's got the big goal! He's got the premiership! Goes by a little crossover, step back, wide open, and it's good! Got much help. Oh, he doesn't need any help! How about that?
This is the World of Sport.
Welcome to the football edition of the World of Sport podcast. I'm joined by Pete Lynch, as always. Another great week of Premier League football. I know you're a Liverpool fan, Pete. Lucky to get away with a win at Sheffield. I guess we'll start with the first game of the round, the EPL round, that is, with Liverpool-Sheffield. What were your thoughts on the game? And I'll give you mine after.
Yeah, lucky as you say, definitely. But just happy that we saw out the game. Obviously a very lucky goal as well to go with it. But it shows that if we aren't playing at our best, but we're still winning, it's a good sign. We haven't done that in the past, and teams like Man United have always been able to do that in recent years. Obviously not so much now, but if we're not playing at the very best level we can be, but still winning games, no matter who it's against, then it's not too much to worry about. But yeah, not our best performance at all.
I think Sheffield definitely and succeeded without getting on the score sheet, but definitely targeted your fullbacks. That's your greatest strength, having such great fullbacks, attacking fullbacks, who love to join in on the attack. But Chris Wilder definitely made the point to expose the fullbacks, and in particular tried to get McBurney one-on-one with Matip, and Matip, or however you pronounce it, held his own, but there was quite a few shaky moments. So I think Liverpool will have to improve if they're gonna continue to stay top of the league.
Yeah, I think we saw it against Chelsea in particular. They targeted Trent Alexander-Arnold because he gets forward so much, which is, as you say, it's a great asset to have. But maybe he's sometimes not all there in defence. But I think Klopp deserves huge credit for the game against Sheffield because he changed the game, and we haven't seen it in recent weeks. He likes to keep his subs. He keeps them until the very end of the game for some reason a lot of the time. But it was on the hour mark that he brought off Henderson and brought on Origi, and it was Origi who actually changed the game. He got out wide, attacked Sheffield United defence, and it was him who he had a big say in the Wijnaldum goal as well. So yeah, huge credit for Klopp for thinking outside the box maybe and just not going for the usual attacking three that he's always gone with.
Yeah, as I said, I think it could have just been that they were up against Sheffield and expected to win. But as I said, they're going to need to be a lot better against much better teams. In saying that, Sheffield have played far better than their points tally would lead you to believe. So full credit to them, and they'd probably feel a bit stung not coming away with a point, given how the 90 minutes eventuated, and they missed a couple of rip-snorting chances. But in terms of stats, it wasn't even that much different from each other. Let's see here, 12 shots to 16 Liverpool's favour. So it's not too dissimilar. And Liverpool missed some big chances with Mane, in particular Mane, hitting the post and missing the one-on-one chance. But if you're going to win the Premier League, you got to finish those chances. They're just, I don't want to say lucky, but fortunate that Henderson slipped one through the legs.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. It was definitely a game of wasted chances, a game of missed chances. It was end to end, but we do have to take those chances if we want to win the league. And City they've been scoring goals for fun lately, and they've shown that they've taken their chances, and look what it can do for you. But I think as well, Van Dijk deserves a special mention for his role because he's just shown how solid he is at the back. He was just keeping everything out. He was unstoppable on Saturday, and he's just an immense player for us. And even when we're not firing at the front, it's important for him to keep switched on at the back, and he did that against Sheffield.
I think, well, you took, to use your words, the words right out of my mouth. I think the importance Van Dijk has to Liverpool cannot be understated. If you lose Van Dijk, I think you lose the Premier League, just full stop. The work he does off the ball, intercepting, getting in the way of shots, I shudder the thought if he went down with an ACL or any other season-ending injury, or even a couple months out. I don't see how you guys would recover. Yeah, Joe Gomez, Matip is good, but he covers. I don't know. He's like having two centre backs in one. He's just that good.
He is next level, and the thing is, he's improved everyone else around him as well. You look at Matip, who's come on absolute leaps and bounds this season. He's been unbelievable, and that's because he's playing beside Van Dijk. So yeah, you're right. We can't afford anything to happen to him at all.
But yeah, it's a good win given how Liverpool played. So, we can talk about they looked bad, or, this, that, or the other, need to be better against better teams. But at the end of the day, 3 points, no real injury scares or anything, and, move on to next week. 3 points is all that really matters. So we can complain or critique them all we want, but at the end of the day, they're still 7 for 7 and 5 points ahead of City. So, you couldn't really ask for much more, regardless of how you play.
Absolutely, yeah. 3 points, take it and move on, especially on the back of, a complete change against the MK Dons in the Carabao Cup, which we went through that as well with, a brand new side. So it's good that we're using the squad that we've got, and yeah, as long as we keep on winning, then I'm happy.
In the next game of the round, a surprisingly good fixture given the two teams, but both are in the top half of the table with Bournemouth, West Ham, and it ended up all square, and West Ham really missed a chance to make their claim for top 4.
Yeah, it was a really entertaining game. I think there was about 30 attempts on goal from both sides, which is just insane. So it's good to see both teams going for it, But yeah, I'd say they'll probably both be happy with a point, I guess, given the fixture and given how they're both going this season. But that's West Ham unbeaten at 6 away now, so it could have been their chance, to push on, get a win, and go into the even further up the table. They're sitting 5th at the minute, but it's been an unbelievable start from them, so they'll probably take the point. But I think with the players they've got and some of the signings they've made, I honestly can see them, in the top 6. It's a big statement, but they have a really good squad there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't want to say an underrated side, because they've been good for the last several years, and it was barely 2 or 3 years ago where they almost made Champions League. So it's not like they're underrated or anything, but they're finally starting to fit into their new stadium and figure out their how to win there, and it's proving dividends. We can just ignore the 5-0 shellacking to Man City. The best teams in Europe will suffer the same fate to Man City. You just cop it on the chin, move on to next week, and that's exactly what they did. And I think they'll be disappointed with the draw, but given they went 1-0 up with an excellent Yarmolenko goal, great turn, great left foot finish into the corner. But it also showed great character to come back from 2-1 down as well. So all signs seem positive at the moment for the Hammers, and they don't have to play City for a while, which is good. But a few big games for teams that could end up around them: Palace, Everton are the next 2 weeks. So both of them have been top half teams, especially Everton, and that'll be a big game for the Premier League as a whole, Everton, West Ham. So I can't wait for that.
Yeah, well, you got to fancy West Ham, I think, with the way they're going at the minute. They're just on level on points with Arsenal up there, 3 wins, just 1 loss. But yeah, you mentioned Yarmolenko back after an Achilles injury that ruled him out for most of the last season, and it's literally like a brand new signing. Honestly, he's 3 goals in his last 4 league games now. Against United last week and against Bournemouth this week, left absolute wand of a left foot almost. So that's good news for them. But then the other side, they have Fabianski, who went off injured, which is going to be absolutely huge. It's like Liverpool losing Alisson. Adrian's obviously come in, but I think it's just such a big difference. And West Ham, they have Roberto. They signed him in the summer, but he did make a good save against Bournemouth. But I really don't think, from what I hear anyway, that the Hammers fans are happy at all with him in there. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes, because Fabianski's out for quite a while now, I believe, and he's been, I'd say, their best player in recent years, definitely.
Moving on to the next game, Villa Burnley. A bit of a case of sound like a broken record, but once again, Villa looked excellent, looked full value for 3 points. I mean, 16 shots to 10, 60% possession to 40% possession. Just once again, it doesn't matter how well you play or how great you look. The only thing that matters is 3 points, and once again, they come up short.
Yeah, again, really entertaining game, end to end. Both teams fighting for a win, but as you say, yeah, it really is all about game management, because it's a worry for Villa. They've dropped 8 points, I think it is, from winning positions this season already, which is incredible, and that's more than anyone else, by quite a margin. So, like West Ham, all credit to Burnley for fighting back, but Villa really have to, keep a hold of games, especially if they're playing at home. They have to manage the game well enough to get the lead and stay in the lead. They just can't afford to keep dropping points, or they'll go straight back down. Honestly, you can't afford to do that.
Yeah, they're already in the relegation scrap, and as you said, 8 points drop. That's huge in the grand scheme of the relegation. Given that teams that get relegated typically only get around the 30, 40 point mark. So 8 points. If they end up with 35 points, they would have been on 43, and it's only week 7 of the Premier League. That's huge in the grand scheme of their survival. So, I mean, as Liverpool fans would say, it doesn't matter how you get the win, given their performance against Sheffield. All that matters is the 3 points, and Villa can have honourable losses every week, and it'll still mean that they'll get relegated. Doesn't matter if you get relegated honourably or you're just crap, you still get relegated. So, warning signs already, and they really have to fix up whatever the problem is with not picking up 3 points when they have all the chances to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned, the 43 points maybe at the end of the season, but even now, 8 more points than the 5 they've got already, and they'd be in the top 4, which is insane to think about. They'd be ahead of Arsenal, behind Leicester, just. So it's mattering now. You look at the end of the season and you think we might need to win these last couple of games, but if they had won this weekend or won, in previous weeks, then they would have been fine already. But it is worrying times. But again, you look at some of the players they've got, and they do have some guys in there who can bring them through the tough times, especially John McGinn. Another goal for him. He really, I'll say it again, I've said it before, he really is destined for bigger and better things. A man of the match again, determined, big tackles, he's always running. And yeah, as I say, another goal. So if they do go down, he'll be gone straight away to definitely a top 10 team, even top 6, 100%.
Yeah, he's still incredibly young, 24, I believe he is. So, yeah, as you say, if he goes down, he's proved himself at the top level. So I think he'll move on pretty quickly. Um, yeah, I definitely agree with pretty much with everything you said, and um, yeah, well, I had another point. It just completely slipped my mind. So we'll just move on to the Chelsea Brighton game. Not a whole lot of talking points. Just a great win for Chelsea, a clean sheet, which is important against a Brighton team that's been playing well. A new style of play for Brighton, and an important clean sheet for Chelsea, given the struggles they've had over the recent weeks.
Yeah, and I think it's their first clean sheet of the season in the league, anyway, if I'm not mistaken. Which and it's also Lampard's first win at Stamford Bridge as Chelsea manager. So absolutely two huge confidence boosters, no matter who you're playing against. And also Hudson Odoi back, and he's back in the frame. They've obviously been missing Hazard, like Pulisic, who's been brought in, hasn't really stepped up to the plate yet for whatever reason. But Hudson Odoi could be that man to provide that spark going forward. But yeah, that's probably the win they just needed to kick on now. But yeah, the main thing I think from that game, 24 shots on goal Chelsea had with just 2 goals. So maybe like Liverpool, they just have to be a lot more clinical enough in the final third.
Yeah, 7 big chances missed according to the stats, and well, they definitely did miss some big chances. But in saying that, you take a 2-0 win to the bank at the moment if you're Chelsea, and I think it could potentially be a season-defining win, as you quite rightly mentioned. But yeah, I think you'd be most happy with what's his name, the striker, Tammy Abrahams. He's just been, I think as a Chelsea fan, as we saw uh, when Stamford Bridge applauded the team despite the result. I think everyone at Chelsea, the fans, the people in the back room, understand that this is a growth year. This is a year for their youngsters to emerge and to really make a name for themselves. As we've talked about in recent weeks, their team is incredibly young, from Kepa to Abraham and everyone in between. They have so much room to grow. So um, this is just another step that Chelsea take towards becoming the top four team that they've come to expect from themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that victory. I think Lampard was saying after the game, it's finally the first time they've been able to actually play for 90 minutes. I mean, I think he mentioned against Leicester and the likes of Sheffield United, they played for a half, as good as they could, but that was it. They didn't give another 45 minutes, but against Brighton, that was it. That was, a solid 90 minutes, everyone working for each other, and yeah, they got the result in the end.
Yeah. Next game, Palace Norwich, and Norwich, despite beating City, they find themselves well and truly in the relegations cap. In fact, one place off relegation. So the 3 points against City are huge at the moment, and if they didn't win that, they would be, I believe, rock bottom. So no, they'd be in 19th because Watford is worse. But yeah, a big win for Palace and a big loss for Norwich.
Yeah, as you say, North sitting 17th, which I don't think anybody thought after their start. But maybe the more keen-eyed fans would have noticed that I think they either go for games or else get pretty well beaten in games. They either win or lose. No, their only other team with no draws in the league is Liverpool, who obviously have won 7 from 7. So Norwich they either pick up an astonishing win against the likes of Man City or else get beaten at the likes of Crystal Palace. So it's probably going to be like that. I'll be honest, it's going to be like that for the whole season. They're going to go through it with ups and downs, um, which is just, I think it's just because of the way they play. But maybe that's kind of taken its toll now. They had a lot of injuries. But their attacking style of football, it might just be taking a toll now. They probably got away with it in the Championship, but they'll probably quickly realise that the Premier League is a completely different ball game.
Yeah, agreed. And Palace were just clinical with the big chances they created for themselves, and a big 3 points, which pumps them up into the top half of the Premier League. Spurs Southampton, a, a great win for Spurs given the red card to Aurier. I still don't really know what he got the second yellow for. I think it was pulling the shot. I don't know. I didn't get a good angle on my screen, but given the red card to then go for the next hour and go on to win the game, I think that. I don't like to use the term season defining because they're Tottenham Hotspurs, but character defining maybe is better way of putting it.
An end of that hour with 70% possession or something. So they were definitely on top, but that's obviously understandable whenever you're playing against 10 men. So Spurs, in my opinion, were very lucky to survive. But yeah, harsh probably red card. I think they were complaining that the ball was out before Aurier picked up a second yellow card for pulling back his man. But yeah, they definitely just really happy to get the win, like Liverpool, 3 points on the board. Um, and they've got Bayern Munich coming up in the Champions League tonight, actually. So I'm sure they had, an eye on that definitely. After playing Southampton at home.
I think if they go down to Bayern and chuck up another horrible performance against Brighton, I just wonder if the questions about Pochettino's future will start to surface again. I think they're two big games in the grand scheme of Tottenham's path in the future.
Yeah, obviously Pochettino's a wanted man. I think United pretty strongly linked with him, in recent months. Whether his head's turned or not, we don't know. But I mean, it's a long way to go, as we keep saying. But they maybe just haven't found exactly what they're looking for yet, Spurs, in terms of performances. But obviously, with Harry Kane up there, I think they're still going to get the goals. They're still going to do well. Obviously, Son up there supporting him, and Ndombele, who looks to be an unbelievable signing. So, I mean, I wouldn't worry too much about them, but they're going to be really tested in Europe as well as the Premier League. So it's going to be interesting to see which one Pochettino prioritizes.
It was also nice to see Eriksen, Kane, and Son link up for one of their goals. Kind of felt like vintage Tottenham from last season. So I think they'll also put a smile onto Spurs' faces on top of the 3 points, but also seeing their trio of superstars, really really understand each other and gel and create a goal like that against a team with the man advantage. I think they'll leave a lot of Spurs fans in good spirit.
Yeah, that's exactly what they should be doing. I mean, you look at Liverpool's front three, who do it week in, week out. So those Spurs front three are really talented, and they've got that in them. So as long as they do it on a regular basis, then yeah, they'll be fine.
Move on to the Wolves Watford game, and more misery for Watford, given they had the numerical the possession stats in their favour, and also the total shots they doubled and then some, the Wolves. But I think Wolves will feel like they're well and truly overdue for 3 points, and will hopefully this will kickstart their season given the talent they have on their roster.
Yeah, it was two sides looking for that first win after 6 games, which is incredible with these two sides. Obviously both lacking in confidence, but it was Wolves who came out on top. Two similar teams, I think, but it's a real worry for Watford, sitting rock bottom of the table, minus 16 goal difference, which is just miles ahead of anyone else, really. I think Newcastle have -9, which is the closest to them. With just 2 points on the board as well, it's certainly not ideal. And with a manager change, so Watford could be in big trouble. But yeah, as you say, for Wolves, massive for them. They've gone from the relegation zone to 13th in the table, with that win. So it just shows, how tight it is down there, and it shows that absolutely anybody could go down out of all those teams.
Yeah, I'm not really sure where Watford turn to after that loss, but yeah, it's hard to really know because they're such a talented team. I mean, they have the likes of Delafeu, Decore, Welbeck, who has played for Arsenal. Janmaat is a great player. Cleverly has played for bigger teams. Capu came over from Spurs, so it's not like they don't have quality on the side that have played for big clubs. It's hard to see where they're going wrong at the moment. But especially given how well they did in the last couple of years and making the FA Cup semi-finals, which they I think beat Wolves in FA Cup or League Cup, one of the two. I think FA Cup, but yeah, I don't really know where they turn to from here. They have the talent on their list. It's not like they're destined for relegation. They were destined for pushing for top six. So, I think all it'll take is a little spark, a win here, a good win against someone maybe around them in the table, and I think Watford will be fine in the end. I mean, they have Sheffield United next week. So I think if they win that, I mean, they have Spurs, but we'll ignore that after. But I think if they win next week, they'll get their season back on track.
Yeah, I mean, simple as it is, that wins, get you confidence, and that's exactly what they need right now, I'm sure. The players are pretty distraught at the minute, and the fans and the manager as well, I'm sure, after going so long without a win. Yeah, particularly what happened, the FA Cup final actually last season against City. So whatever's gone wrong behind the scenes, I don't know, on the pitch, off the pitch, yeah, they really, really need a win as soon as possible.
We'll move on to the next game and probably the second biggest game of the round, Everton City, and it turned out to be an absolute belter, but City's quality, or should I say Mahrez's quality, and also, KDB, but Mahrez in particular probably had his breakout game for Manchester City, which is kind of weird to say given we all know how good he was at Leicester and how good he's been since he came to City, but I think he took his game to a new level in this game, and he was the difference, in my opinion, for them getting all 3 points against a really good Everton side who had their chances as well.
Yeah, and I think that just shows, again, we talk about it all the time, but City's strength and depth. The fact that Mahrez sits on the bench most other weeks, but whenever they have Champions League or things like that, they can afford to bring him in, and they can afford to put both Silvas on the bench along with Aguero. So it's absolutely frightening. But definitely fair play to Everton. They really gave it a go. But as you say, City they were too strong, and they were worthy of their win, I think.
I think they also have to credit Ederson. He had an unbelievable game. Did a sliding save 1-on-1, and I think the sliding save, I can't remember who it was from, but came off. I think his biggest strength is coming off the line really quickly. He's very quick for a goalkeeper, and I thought he was probably man of the match, despite it being 3-1, which is probably saying a lot for how Everton played. But yeah, City's quality, the players like Ederson, Mahrez, and the fact that Pep Guardiola can turn to his bench and say, Aguero, Silva, like, win us the game now. Just come on and do your thing. We need 3 points against a good Everton side. So, I mean, it's insanity for City. But on the other side of the coin, Everton now sit 15th and on 7 points. So for a team that looks to be challenging for top 6 and maybe even top 4, given the struggles of Arsenal, Chelsea, and United, I think this is not the start to the season that they were hoping for, or that they need to reach those heights.
Yeah, again, like Watford, you really don't know what's going wrong at Everton. They've obviously got the type of players who can win you games regardless, and obviously Sigurdsson, even Dean at the back there, and Delph, who's come in and done a good job from City. But obviously, it was going to be a tough game against the champions always. So probably again far too early days to worry them. But I think it's just the teams ahead of them, like the likes of West Ham, Leicester, who you wouldn't really categorize as better than Everton, but they're obviously well ahead of them in the league, and they'll be pushing for those top 6 spots. So it will be interesting to see how they go. Marco Silva's under a lot of pressure actually right now to produce results. So he kind of needs to get a win on the board, and they need to get up and running. The likes of Sigurdsson needs to start scoring more goals, and especially Keane as well, coming in from Juventus. Hasn't really settled at all yet. I think it was about 30 million they spent on him, so he probably needs to start finding the back of the net as soon as possible.
Yeah, he said Leicester is a team that is not better than them, but which on paper they're not. But since I saw a stat that since Brendan Rodgers has taken over Leicester, that they're third in terms of points won, behind obviously Liverpool and City. So I think the difference at the moment is Brendan Rodgers and his tactical nuances. I mean, he took Liverpool to within inches of a Premier League title not too long ago. So Brendan Rodgers is probably proving the difference for Leicester at the moment. And speaking of Leicester, another a clinical win against Newcastle. I mean, helped by being a man to the good for half the game, but they were still 1-0 up and looking full value for their 3 points. And with the red card, I'll get your opinion. I thought it was originally. I thought that it was a harsh red card, but looking back on it, there's a lot of force in it, and you can just see that on another day that breaks a leg. So upon reflection, I think it's the right decision, just unnecessarily reckless and dangerous. So I think right decision, although there wasn't intent to be malicious, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with seeing it at first glance. I thought it was obviously a big tackle, but after looking at obviously the replays help it a lot. It was a horror tackle for me. It was a straight red. Absolutely, he could have done serious damage, and that probably sums up Newcastle's season. To be honest, right now it's just going from bad to worse. It seems with every game they play. But yeah, Leicester, I think they're my favorite team to watch right now. They just are an absolute joy. Especially going forward, obviously they've got Vardy, Perez, Barnes, the players they have going through there. Even Albrighton still got it. And his link-up play with Vardy is just, it's second to none. But as you mentioned, Rodgers he's been unbelievable since he's come in. Got a lot of stick from the Celtic fans when he left, and a lot of abuse actually for having no ambition, for not trying to stay and win 10 leagues in a row with Celtic, which is just laugh, to be honest with you, because he's currently guiding Leicester to a Champions League place, which is obviously a lot better than what he's done in the past. So he's key for that, also because of the fact they've got an unbelievable spine to their team. I think Schmeichel, good goalkeeper. They've got been one of their best players this season. They've got Soyuncu and Evans in the middle of that back four, and then Tielemans in midfield along with Madison, and then, as I say, Vardy up front. So, I mean, the quality of those players is it's really, really high standard, and they could do some serious damage this season.
And I think another thing Brendan Rodgers has got absolutely right is using Vardy in the way that Vardy is most effective, straight down the middle and with a ton of pace. I mean, I think he was used more on the wing last season or before Brendan Rodgers came along. And yeah, I get he has pace, and you know, you look at Aubameyang and he still does well on the wing when he gets put out there. But the man is just a fiend for goal, for the box, for anything to do with scoring goals. And I think as soon as you put him in that frame of mind, just get into the box, score goals, take on players, just run your little guts out over the top balls. He's just a fiend, and he proved once again with another 2 goals. He's just got the nose for goals, and um, I think he putting him at striker finishes the puzzle, which was already finished before when they won the Premier League. But Brendan Rodgers righting the wrong, in my opinion, and leaving him up front where he excels.
Yeah, Rogers and Vardy seem to have, a great relationship, and it's obviously working wonders for them at the minute. And as you say, Vardy he's a complete finisher, complete striker, knows where the net is. But I think it's also important to mention that Newcastle defense were just probably at their worst they've been all season. I think Steve Bruce he's got a real job on his hands here now, because it seems that he only goes for a back five, in defense wherever he goes for some strange reason. And whenever he didn't have five against Leicester there, he went for the back four and it did not work. So they don't really have a plan B at the minute. And that's a worrying sign for them. They're right in the relegation zone, 19th there, 1 victory. So it's not really good times for them, and I know that the fans aren't happy with what's going on up in the boardroom. So that really needs to change as soon as possible for them.
I have a quick talking point or question before we move to the last game, which we'll quickly cover. Given how we just talked about Leicester and their success and them pushing for Champions League, do you reckon Harry Maguire is probably sitting in Manchester thinking, I've made the wrong move?
Yeah, probably. I'd say he's obviously pretty happy with, a lot more money and playing at United obviously still one of the biggest clubs in the world, no matter what position they are in the league right now. But I think he'll be disappointed that he's gone, especially with Leicester performing as they are. But I don't think he could have seen that. I don't think any of us saw it, to be honest. I think we all thought that was going to be a big loss for them. But Rodgers has turned them around with Kaglar Soyuncu at the back. He's been, just as good as Maguire, and he's been really impressive. So, I'm sure Harry Maguire will be happy for his old side, but slightly annoyed that they're outperforming United at this minute in time.
And speaking of United, a bit of a lackluster affair against Arsenal, and I don't remember which pundit came out and said that both teams are just mediocre and a shadow of the teams that they used to be.
Yeah, I think it was Roy Keane actually, who really wasn't happy.
That's the one.
He was disappointed, and I think he's every right to be disappointed after that, because it was a pretty drab affair. I think VAR was the highlight, to be frankly honest with you.
Yeah, they actually got a decision right, which, I mean, it was clear and obvious that it was correct. McTominay also had a really great game. Probably should have sealed 3 points for United with a header coming from the back post, but blew it for whatever reason. But his goal was an absolute worldie. Granted, Xhaka is probably annoyed with himself for ducking, but in saying that, the ball was swerving, so it's hard to be too critical on him. But I mean, I don't even know how to analyze the game. It was just boring. I mean, no creativity. I mean, I get that United want to play counter-attacking football, but I don't even know how to describe it. It was just dire.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just, I mean, that's supposed to be a rivalry, and it's been an incredible rivalry, over the years, obviously, with Keane and Vieira, Keown, Van Nistelrooy, all these players, Giggs, and now it just wasn't happening at all. I think United are just lacking, obviously, a striker since Lukaku left. They haven't really replaced him at all. They've obviously had Rashford up there, Martial, who's injured, Greenwood, who just turned 18 today, I believe. So it's tough for them at the minute. Whenever they've had the likes of Rooney in the past, Van Nistelrooy, as I said, Van Persie even, obviously played for Arsenal as well, but he was, deadly at United. Even Zlatan Ibrahimovic, which is almost laughable, but he was a much better option than what they've got now. So it's worrying times for them, sitting 10th in the league, and they've got Europa League this week again to compete with. So who knows what's going to happen to United?
They might even end up putting all their chips in Europa League as the best way to get into the Champions League.
I think that's what Mourinho did, didn't he?
Yeah. It's tough to know what to say, but despite the fact that I've been critical of Chelsea, I think that Chelsea are in a position to become challengers with City and Liverpool. Not yet, but they have the platform, the framework, the youngsters coming through. I mean, as we said earlier, Abrahams, Mason Mount, Pulisic, if and when he shows up, Hudson Odoi, Kepa Arrizabalaga. They're back. They're centre backs. They have 3 young options. Zuma, Christensen, and Rudiger. That's it. And they have Kante as well in the midfield, so they have the young spine there to be successful next season, the season after, and potentially for the next decade if they get it all right. But you look at United and you just think, where? Like, what are you excited about? Okay, you have one of the best goalkeepers in the world, but that's not going to win you games. That's just going to save you games. Lindelof and Maguire have been better than what they've had in previous years, but I mean, they're not championship winning pair. Young Twansby, Pogba looks a shadow of the player we all thought he was going to be. I mean, the only person that really sticks out to me in their starting 11 here is McTominay. And even he's not even world class yet. And you have like Martial still to come, but I mean, what's he going to do that's going to change the fortunes of United? And on the other side, Arsenal, they're literally just getting carried by Aubameyang at the moment. And you look at them and you just think, where for them as well? I mean, they have some youngsters coming through, but I don't see that it's going to be enough to overturn their fortunes either.
No, they're both a shadow of the teams they used to be, absolutely, especially with the players they used to have. I think there obviously are a few exceptions. Maybe Dan James probably been United's best player this season, which is a bit of a shock. He was coming from Swansea. I think he was meant to be a bit of a background player, but he's actually stepped up to the plate, and he's obviously still really young, still got a lot to learn, but a couple of other players could follow his lead. And as for Arsenal, I think, young Saka, 18 years of age, and he outclassed a 72 million Nicola Pepe on the other wing. So it's hard to know whether or not youngsters can, do everything for you, but they're obviously, at these 2 clubs anyway, doing better than the seasoned professionals, when they're really shaking up the books. And it's almost embarrassing for these 2 clubs that they're just not performing, and it is giving the likes of Leicester and West Ham that opportunity, a real good opportunity to, steal their place in the top 6.
Just something interesting that I just thought of. As you said, there's the youngsters are doing really well, but you look at the dynasties, let's say in the last 20 years, So you have United, who had the class of, I think it's 92. I don't know, Giggs, Beckham, Scholes. All of those guys came through the club, the academy, and they formed the spine that allowed Ferguson to build around them and build a dynasty. Pep Guardiola had Puyol, Valdez, Iniesta, Xavi, Messi, Villa, who I think also came through the system. But, Busquets, you had the spine that came through the system, through the club, that was then able to be built around to become a dynasty. I think Pep's doing the same with City at the moment, with the likes of, Foden and there's two centre backs coming through as well. But I know they've spent a lot of money, but you have to spend, money to be successful now. But he's the type of manager that builds the spine from the youth system up and builds around that. And they're just two examples with United and City. Madrid did it as well. With the likes of Ramos and Carvial and all these other players that got to the club at a young age. And Bayern Munich have done that. Stealing German players at a young age and then building them into their system. But a lot of their players came through the Bayern youth team as well. So you see that with Chelsea as well. That's what they're doing, and that's why even though I've been critical of Lampard, I'm bullish about their chances because all those players came from the youth system of Chelsea. So I think that's what I'm most disappointed about United and Arsenal is they're trying to buy their way out of I don't know, a recession, if you want to call it that, instead of building for the future inwards, outwards instead of outwards to inwards, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think Solskjaer has already said that he's going to spend money in January on a striker, so that it's really going to not do any favors for the likes of Rashford and Greenwood, who might just think they're obviously getting a starting role now, especially Greenwood, who's come in recently, scored in the Europa League, obviously, and in the Carabao Cup. But I think United are just going to go and spend more money in January on a striker, and maybe on a midfielder. They've obviously tried to sharpen up their defence with Maguire and Wan-Bissaka, but that was over 100 million spent. Same as Arsenal, 72 million on the likes of Pepe. So it is a weird situation for two clubs that have been so good in the past and so dominant and things like that. They've been good to watch and they've had top players as you mentioned, but I think just times are changing for these two and they need to do something fast if they want to stay relevant.
Yeah, and I think last week I said that United were becoming an irrelevant team, and I shudder for their bandwagon of fans who now have to deal with mediocrity as the basis for their club. So that'll be fun for them and fun for me as a Leeds fan to wave goodbye at them as they suck.
Absolutely.
Well, Pete, that pretty much concludes this week's wrap up of the Premier League, and it was awesome talking to you as always. And I guess we'll catch you next week.
Absolutely, sounds good.
And enjoy the Champions League tonight, your time, and bloody 6 a.m., 4 a.m., whenever it is my time. So, yay.
That's the joys of living over here, I guess.
Yeah. Easy access to football as well. All right, man. I'll catch you next week and enjoy the Champions League.
Sounds good. See you then.